Once was a swagman camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree. As he sat, as he watched and waited while his billy boiled, who'll come a waltzing Matilda with me? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Arnie Lukes at the Crossroads, the home forum, the home and family. And I'd like to welcome our guest panelists for today. Welcome, Beata.
Good morning, all. Good to see you.
Thank you. And from Victoria, Judy Octoloni. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you. Good morning, Arnie and Beata and everyone watching.
Good girl. Okay, now we've had an interesting fortnight because our family has been looking at this amazing carbon with Christine Jones. We've been looking at that. We've also, last night, we've been looking at Dr. McCullough and gut microbiome or flora, the gut flora. And it's most fascinating because you realise that they're even talking, the medical profession is even talking about the third brain, the third brain. And we've got a nervous system operating around inside our bellies, inside our colon, intestines, and it's actually controlling what happens separately from our main nervous system. And you think, why, by jingoes, this is just such a new area. And it is. And the fact is, there's an interview here, which I'm just going to bring up, this one. And Spore Probiotics, he talks about it. But in the interview, he's actually talking to a bloke called Dr. Klinghardt. And that interview to me is most important because what we're looking at in all of that is we're looking at science that's been going on for nearly 80 years, but no one's talking about it. And we think it's most important that we do talk about it because the potential is there for managing our own health. Now, I know as a young lad, especially as a toddler, I loved the outside and I loved the garden and I loved picking and eating things. I still do to this day, picking and eating things in the garden. In fact, I'll stand there and eat directly off the plant. Right now, mandarins are in season and I just stand there and eat mandarins. And what's actually going on is I'm engaging directly with the soil and the microbes in the soil. And I think that's most important because I think there's a whole science out there that we haven't heard about. Anyway, I'll give the floor to Beata. Beata.
Mm. Yes, I horrified my niece one day when I served a salad and I didn't wash it. And of course, she took a scoop and there was a green bug and a green caterpillar in her serving. Hmm. Yes, that's what we do here. But never mind. Washing your vegetables too well seems to be a really bad idea. Yes, I believe there is a vitamin B, I can't remember which one, in a very uh, point where the stalk or stalk comes out of the apple. So if you see a darkish sort of matter down there, eat it rather than cut it out because that's the vitamin B. Yes, what we watched last night was very enlightening, and we highly recommend that you watch it too
Thank you.
because it.
Thank you for that, Beata. I'm just going to jump in over you for a sec. I make a point of eating the whole apple. And the reason is because the seeds in the apple contain B17, an anti cancer vitamin. So does ripe grapes, the dark grapes. When they're actually going overripe, super sweet, they actually containing this same anti cancer properties. And I think it's important that we as a human organism relating to the earth realize or acknowledge that we actually do come from the soil. And the soil feeds us and sustains us. This earth we live in is an environment where we are part of it. We're not separate from the world, we're part of the world. And I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. The more the science is delving into this, the more we realise that we are community. We're not isolated. Judy.
Yes, I was reminded before, Arnie, about children eating dirt, playing with mud pies and things, and as you say, we are created from soil, and so we obviously follow some sort of instinct or something happening as children. I think the fact that the food should not be overwashed is probably a very important thing to take away today, because we're encouraged to scrub food clean, and obviously if the food's organic, we're not doing a good thing.
Thank you, Judy. That's exactly right. That there is a relationship between the bugs that are actually on the food and us. And I'm not talking about bugs that you can see, but the bugs that you can't see. And we need to engage with those, participate with them. And Macola's lecture with this Dr. Klinkhardt, I find it fascinating because they're talking about giving us seeds, spore seeds, in order to complement what goes on. I'll let you have the floor, Beata.
It's interesting because Dr. Klinkhardt brings up the subjects of pathogens, and he is of the opinion that pathogen is only becoming one when it's proliferating, when you've got too much of it around, when other things that are balancing are absent or impaired or in any sense, not there, so to speak. So this is one of those things that comes up in alternative medicine from time to time, and people are saying you've got to start doing it right to be in good health overall. This is the holistic approach. So the gut in the microbes in the soil and microbes in our gut have got so much in common and so much to do. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Beata. Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just going to cut across to a website here. It's actually done a Google search on Christine Jones, carbon and nitrogen. And you'll notice there that Christine has got at least an hour and a half, an hour and 20, and nearly 1 hour, 3 major videos there. Now, we've caught 2 of them, and Judy this morning directed us to this third one, digging deeper, soil biology forum. And the fact is, we've got so much to learn, and the beauty of it is that the learning doesn't stop. You think that school is a place of education. It's not, actually. School has been subverted and it's a place of indoctrination. But your education is life, and your education continues on right throughout your life. And that to me is most important, that we don't stop learning. If you look at the backdrop, I'm just going to bring you up, Beata, the backdrop behind Beata. And that's one of half a dozen libraries that we've got in the house. And that's the point, that we are constantly learning. And the beauty of in that learning is that there's truths being revealed that have been hidden from us, our health and our vitality in the soil, in the knowledge that's out there. But the fact is, none of it comes on a plate, an instant porridge. Press a Google search and find it. No, you've got to listen to the lecture. You've got to spend the hour and a half doing it. And then from there, you what it does is it starts to crystallize in your thinking, and you develop who you are as a human being and as a thoughtful human being, your engagement with the world around you. Judy.
Oh, Arnie, you've got me.
I see Don in the back there. Hello, Don.
Yes, hello, Don. Arnie. Christine Jones, she's a wonderful speaker. She's certainly not boring. I hardly recommend her. We saw her, as I said, we travelled to listen to her speak, and she spoke for nearly 3 hours, and she still had so much information for us. And she's shown me just how important soil health is and how wrong we've been over the years treating soil the way we have. I don't know enough to try and elaborate on it other than to say she is compelling listening, and words out there now that she's on YouTube. And I think she's going to change Australians' thinking on soil and the bacteria that we are eating, the bacteria in the soil, and how important it all is to just the whole cycle of nature and our well-being.
Thank you, Judy. That's beautifully put. I'm just going to bring that YouTube search, the Google search back up again, because I agree with you that what's going on is there is truth being released. We're pursuing truth in our health, truth in our diet. The fact is, when Christine talks about nitrogen, the double-edged sword, what she's saying is that the superphosphate that we've been pouring on our farmland is actually destroying the microbes. And if it's destroying the microbes, then it's causing chronic illness to us, because the microbes are actually an integral part of our biology, an integral part of our health. And so if the plants are missing it, and that's what the inorganic nitrogen does, if the plants are missing it, then obviously we're missing it. And it's most important that we start placing these things together, that we are not an isolated, what would you call it, a silo. We are integral. We are integral. We are part of the world. We are part of this earth. We are part of this universe. We can't separate ourselves from it. And I know that Beata's got some more things to say in regard to DNA, which was part of the lecture last night. Beata.
Oh, yes. The most important of those microbes that are so beneficial is the bacillus, and it's about 50 million years old. So imagine, we as humans have been dependent on it from the very beginning. It's older than us. Anyway, the bacillus. If you have read Professor Bechamp theory of microzymes, that was something that he was talking about, which sounds very similar to this bacillus. It was something ancient that survived past the death of the host, and would reemerge in another one coming on along. So this is something that is carried through animals, and when they die, it's passed on to the others. Obviously, being preserved in a soil, although it does not thrive in a soil as such, but the spores of it are there, and we pick them up. And this is the blessing from the soil that we get.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Beata. I'll remind our listeners that there's a book. I'm not sure if we carry spare copies of it, but it's there. Bechamp Pasteur. And essentially, it shows you that this Professor Bechamp had it right, that our relationship with the soil, with the world, is one of mutualism. Whereas Pasteur presented the argument, and as I understand it, it was plagiarized. It wasn't even his original argument, that there is this hostile world out there, and we're forever fighting it with pathogens and vaccination and sterilization and antibiotics and all that. And in actual fact, the philosophy is flawed. It's not hostile. It's not antagonistic. It's mutualism, and I find it fascinating because in the other forums we're talking about this complementary relationship between each part of things. We know one of the forums we talk about the state, the church, and the individual or community, and they complement each other, and none is to dominate. And yet, in the philosophy of Pasteur, it is where it is in hostile, open conflict, and that doesn't reflect the reality as I see it. So it's to me, it's most important that we can actually place these sciences and say that they're skewed at this time because of their philosophy. Anyway, Judy.
Yeah, I welcome all this new information. Well, I would say new. It's not new. I really welcome it, Arnie. I think it could revolutionise healthcare and people's healing in certain diseases. Bound to be improved and by just attention to what we're eating and what we're growing and how it's grown. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that, Judy. That's right. Our engagement with the world around us, with the earth. It's the answers are there. We have to open our eyes. Now, I know this is a. I'm going to do one last lap, and really, what we're doing is we're just advocating that you go and have a look at these videos. There's three of the major ones, Christine Jones, but also these other ones with McCullough and this Dr. Klinkart. Most important to begin to understand your health is there in your hands if you choose to manage it. Okay. Closing comments, please, Beata.
I think the future is there with the spore probiotics, which survive the entrance through your esophagus and stomach acids and colonize your guts, your colon with the bacteria that work for your good. There is no such thing as pathogen. You've got to regain the balance, and all the disease that multiply like bugs, basically like microbes, all around us and have no explanation. Well, they do. If you look closer, they do. You've got to take care of your gut. You've got to get out of the influence of microwaves, because microwaves are killing your gut microbiome. This is the fact now. So all the technology that is harming you, try to get away from it. Try to protect yourself.
Thank you for that, Beata. That was an area we haven't actually covered up till now in this forum. That was the in our home, we minimise radio waves. We minimise the Wi-Fi's. They're all turned off. We run cables, and we minimise our exposure. Mobile phones are turned off unless we're going out and things like that, because we don't want those radio waves going through our home, through our bodies. They interfere with what's happening, and that's the most important part. And of course, this social media, modern technology, this is actually destroying these very microbes that we're advocating we take a second look at. Okay, closing comments, Judy.
Yeah, microwaving our food. I hear people say all the time, "Oh, I wouldn't be without my microwave," and I think I wouldn't be with one. It's and really, if people have questions, they just must research. The internet's available. There are books available. There's not much excuse for the lack of knowledge out there now. And if they have health problems that are not clearing up with their treatment, attention to their gut health may well be the answer.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Judy. That's beautiful. I will let our viewers know that the links that we're discussing today will be in the notes below the video on YouTube. And I'll also highlight that Dr. Klinkart and Dr. McCullough are both talking about the managing the gut flora in autistic children. And that to me is wonderful news, that they're actually going out and they're meeting this chronic disease, modern disease, autism. My exposure in extended family is that 1 in 4 children have autistic spectrum disorder. 1 in 4, 25%. And the medical profession is not even talking about it as being a disease of a modern disease. It's just there's no study, no science, no nothing. It's madness. We're actually we're harming our children, and we've got to look at restoring order. And part of it, I believe, is the gut, and that's why this is so profound. This great work that's going on. So this is Arnie Luke's at the Crossroads. All of this will be on YouTube in about 2 hours. Once was a swagman camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree. As he sat, as he watched and waited while his billy boiled, will come a waltzing Matilda with me.